It's good to be here. Last lesson, first gig. Today we're going to dig into metronome. 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 Tips and tricks of the metronome. We're going to get into how people can use metronome. Most people are familiar with the metronome to some degree. Most musicians are familiar with what a metronome is. It's the thing you refuse to use when you practice. But most musicians neglect to use one, and if they do, even the most serious students, selective about when and how they use the metronome. They maybe don't use it very creatively. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some different ways to use a metronome. Will help you a ton, okay? So let's just dive right in. Some people believe that anytime you're behind your instrument, you should be using a metronome. I mean, anytime. If you're rehearsing your rock band, you need to put the metronome through the PA system. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I practice with just a metronome. Sometimes I'll just put a metronome on without even holding an instrument, and I'll just try to think about music to a metronome. I might be weird. I'll put a metronome on, and when I'm writing, I'll put a metronome on, and I'll try to find a nice cadence with words. I'll put a metronome on, and when I'm writing music, I'll put a metronome on and just write in my brain to the metronome. I'll put a metronome on, and if I'm doing some ear training stuff, I'll put a metronome on and just try to hear either what I'm reading or melody I'm trying to work through, or harmony, interval practice, or whatever. It doesn't even matter. I'll put a metronome on, and that might be a little bit radical to put the metronome on 92 beats per minute and try to write some essay, article, or something, but you know, that might be a little bit too fast for you. I don't know. Okay, so the metronome can be used a ton of different ways. It can be used a ton of different ways. Obviously, the most common way is to just put it on as a steady pulse, right? And then you kind of pull the tempo down if you can't play it, and you practice the piece or the part or something. And as you practice and get better, you raise the tempo up to performance level, things like this. And we'll talk about that in a video I'm going to make in the future. It's going to be about looping and this idea of looping. Last lesson, first gig. For me, the best practice of the metronome is creating longer and longer displacements of time between each click without altering the tempo. A great way to do this is simply to pull out one click per bar. Last lesson, first gig. One click per bar, okay? So this might look like beats 1, 2, 3, and then it's silent on beat 4. Beat 2 is silent, but you've got to click on beat 1, 3, and 4. You can mix it up any way you want. Just of the 4 beats, one of them is silent. Of the 4 beats, one of them is silent. Beat 1 is typically the easiest to hear, so that might be a good place to start. Silent. Beat 3, maybe the second easiest pulse to hear. Maybe you try that one next. You remove that one next. Silent. After that, maybe you pull 2 beats. Silent. Maybe pull beats 1 and 3. Silent. There's kind of even a little Easter egg there, because the 2 and the 4 creates a kind of phenomenon. It's like almost like a groove. It is a groove. So you practice grooving with your metronome. It'll have a nice little swing to it. My old guitar teacher, Mike Wheeler, taught me this, and it absolutely blew my mind. It was revolutionary. The tricky thing whenever you pull out beat 1 and 3 is that it's kind of tough to start. Last lesson, first gig. Because all you're hearing is these click sounds, and you have to count in 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go, boom. So you got to learn how to do that. It's its own thing. I'm sure you can guess what the next step is. Maybe pull out beat 2 and only hear the click on beat 4.
Maybe pull out beat 2 and only hear the click on beat 4.
Good luck with that. It's super tough at low tempos, but you can manage as you speed up. Another thing I like to do with the metronome, last lesson, first gig is carve out the differences between duple and triple meter. A click is a click and it's going, and you can divide it into twos or you could divide it into threes. Being able to practice, let's say, a scale or arpeggio or something, and change gears. Last lesson, first gig, between hearing and performing the music in duple or triplets or whatever, like this at the drop of a hat, is a very good skill to practice. That way, whenever you go to actually making music and you're exchanging these 2 versus 3 ideas, you can hopefully do it at a higher level, maybe even very easily. Great way to train your ear on hearing different divisions, like at will, right? So put it through the paces. Try muting different parts of the metronome, right? Try exchanging between duple and triple meter when you're working through your scales and arpeggios without changing the tempo, right? These are all just divisions of the beat. Yeah, exercise, practice, enjoy. Put it through the paces. Let me know how it goes. Thanks for watching. Last lesson, first gig. Adios.